Hello, and welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today is, I almost said January 7th. It's June 7th, and we're doing government and security news.
Boy, it would suck to have to go back to January of this year, wouldn't it?
Back to March.
March is always the time to go back to.
It does feel like that.
I only vaguely understand that joke.
You were kind of out of it, yeah. You kept going back to it. Every time you thought we were doing a rewind to March.
Did anybody buy that t-shirt? I don't think anybody.
I don't know. I think we got it out a little too late. I worked with our T guy, but he just had some backups.
Store.level1text. You know what's a perennial bestseller? Teaching Santa to think was a mistake.
It is.
You know,
We
we
have to
also
reprint that one a lot.
in a long time we haven't really given full advertisement to Linode.
Yeah, sorry. We throw that in sometimes. Linode, thank you for sponsoring the Level 1 News. You can get $100 if you've never used Linode before to just try them out. It's $100 of credits to try different stuff. You can do elastic storage. You can do virtual machines. You can do database instances. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. We've done tutorials and guides and things on setting up your own stuff on Linode, because for $5 a month, you can have your own VPN gateway.
And if you're wondering, why would I ever want to do that? We'll just stick around because we'll have a lot of examples why.
We've got a lot of Level 1 news for you. So thanks, Linode, and sponsoring the Minecraft server, which is still up.
And people still play on. Someone made map art of my face, which is
Wow.
terrifying, but also amazing.
How accurate do you think it was?
It's pretty. I mean, they went and looked at one of the thumbnails and like painstakingly placed each block.
You got to be in a pretty small minority of people who have had their face built in Minecraft.
Wendell's also in that club.
Can we somehow turn that energy into fixing some of the problems in open source that require that level of detail and attention?
That's not fun.
It's way more fun to build stuff in Minecraft.
But it's the same level of tedium.
Well, let's talk about the. Now, you might be thinking this is a little bit of a stretch for a tech story, but I disagree because this shows how technology and the invasiveness of the government into your technology through your job can be a thing, especially if you work for the government.
Exclusive. The Supreme Court leak investigation heats up as clerks are asked for phone records in unprecedented move. This headline will make absolutely no sense to you if you don't know the context. The context of this
Who doesn't know that?
is that apparently the Supreme Court has decided that women are no longer allowed to get abortions, which is weird.
We don't know that for sure yet,
It was leaked.
It was
though.
leaked.
Yeah.
but we know it for sure.
And there's an investigation. It's like, who leaked this? We have to figure this out.
And we'll do anything to find the leaker.
Now, there's a, was it leaked because it's a terrible decision or a good decision or whatever?
No, it was anti for sure.
Yeah, well,
Anybody who was pro that would just let it happen.
but was it leaked for that reason, or was it
Yes.
leaked because they wanted to create a distraction so they wouldn't take up the gerrymandering Supreme Court case?
It was leaked because they wanted the outrage machine to try and stop it. I mean, it's worked for like the online censorship stuff,
Oh yeah,
the CSAM bills.
yeah.
So we've definitely got examples of crazy laws or legal rulings that people have got out in front of to stop.
This is also, but as far as the Supreme Court goes, this is the first time there's been this kind of a leak.
Because the clerks, being a Supreme Court clerk is like winning the lawyer lottery. They only take the best. And once you've got that on your resume, you write your own ticket wherever you want to go. So one of these people was serious enough about this topic to risk everything. And I think we're fairly certain it's a clerk, right? Because nobody else has access.
Fairly certain.
But it is digital stuff, right?
What if it was China the whole time?
That would,
Oops, all China.
what a play by Putin.
Or the Pegasus malware. If you're a clerk, pro tip, go install the Pegasus malware right now.
But don't, when you call NSO, don't use your regular phone because they're going to be looking into that.
Yeah.
Well, it's always nice to be able to say USA #1.
Yeah.
USA.
And it's really
USA.
nice when you can say it about stuff like, good topics, not like tyranny or debt or something like that.
U.S. retakes first place from Japan on the top 500 supercomputer ranking. ORNL's Oak Ridge National Labs Frontier HPE Cray EX with AMD CPUs, the first true exascale machine. Woo, AMD Epic, yeah.
Quite a bit of a lead it has too.
Yeah.
It's really
It's a compute per watt too, like compute power efficiency was one of the things that they're going for. It's really impressive, and this is a comment that may turn out to be prescient when we talk about like the desktop CPU wars. But AMD has been relentlessly focused on efficiency, and that they're also able to get out, you know, a desktop CPU, which desktop CPUs are not as power efficient as server CPUs, that they've been able to sort of kill two birds with one stone in terms of the micro architecture. That genuinely very impressive. It's going to be harder and harder to do that going forward.
Didn't we also just beat Japan in hot dog eating? That might have been a couple years ago.
That makes sense.
No, you talking about Kobayashi?
Maybe?
Our guy has been winning that contest for a long time now.
USA.
Joey something or other. He's got a nickname.
Of course he does.
Chestnut. Joey Chestnut, I think is his name.
Oh, what's the chestnut for? Shouldn't
That
it be
might
like
not
hot
be
dog
right.
eater? Yeah.
Does Buc-ee's have appealing looking hot dogs?
I don't know if Buc-ee's has hot dogs. It's hard to get a good grip on Buc-ee's just because of the madness of the crowd. You're basically just like, you get a glimpse
you
of
go,
something and
yeah.
you grab it. Yeah. Yeah.
You go where the crowd takes you, but they have to have a hot dog spinner. Every gas station has a hot dog spinner.
Remember, I think if they have a hot dog, it's probably like a little bit fancy, you know, like a sausage or something like that.
A brat.
A jerky dog.
Yeah.
Well, here's a headline that probably isn't going to shock too many people. We've certainly been hearing echoes of this and personal reports that seem to indicate this kind of thing, but it seems like they got some evidence.
Amazon repeatedly violated union busting labor laws, says historic National Labor Rights Board complaint. So some of the evidence from this is leaking out, and oh boy, it does not look good. Now, these are not Amazon employees doing this, but it was a union busting firm hired by Amazon who apparently didn't know that people have cell phones and record things.
So the big issues here, first of all, there are now laws that you have to be able to put up competing literature. Amazon did not tolerate any of that. But more importantly, you're not allowed to just get everybody in a room off the record and be like, hey, if you vote for this, it will be bad for you. They did that over and over, according to these guys.
They did that over and over, and there's apparently a lot of evidence to that.
There's a paper trail for that. Yeah.
Oops, was there not supposed to be a paper trail? Should we not have done that? Yeah, well,
We could kind of forgive them for forgetting about phones as they do ban them, although not anymore, because of the unions.
and also because some people died.
And the FBI has protected us again. I'm always a little weird about when the FBI just steals a domain. It's like, should we give them that authority? That could definitely be abused.
They should get a better designer at least.
Yeah, it's always the same kind of screen.
It is,
isn't
yeah.
It's always awful. And we've discussed in the past, it's critically important to get full-size logos
Yes.
for every agency that was involved.
And you know that someone was like, can we make ours a little bit bigger? Just a little.
This domain has been seized. The FBI seizes the domain and used to sell stolen data and DDoS services. I love how ipstress.in is a domain name that implies there's at least a legit service. It's like, we can stress test your IP address, but it turns out that I, as an individual, can hire them to stress test Walmart.com, and I'm not on Walmart.com's tech support list, so Walmart might not like that.
Krista, you should get the domain ibstress.in.
Yeah. Then they'll seize mine and put that horrible design up too. Except they'll put it in Comic Sans just to spite me.
Remember when Customs and Border Patrol seized OnePlus's earpods because they look too much like Apple's earpods? And this is the road that we head down.
Although these guys were, I mean, it really was a marketplace for stolen data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not in question. That's their stated mission goal. And here's a heartbreaker. And we actually have several other stories this week that are related to this kind of thing. And it's just, we had a glimmer of hope, but the lobbying is too powerful.
California right to repair bill dies in Senate committee. Apple and some other companies are responsible for torpedoing this with fear.
All the big tech
Not
companies.
fear, with money.
Fear money.
Yeah.
If you repair your own iPhone, it could explode the next time you touch it to your ear.
I don't know if it was, did I have the tractor story?
Yeah, where the guy wanted to repair his tractor.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and it's the same argument. I think that was from that story, but it fits here too. It's always like, if we let you do this, you'll do it wrong, and there'll be damage to the environment and yourself. Which in a tractor, maybe a little bit better argument than an iPhone.
Yeah.
Isn't that true of also like working on cars or PC? Like,
Almost anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can hurt yourself, but I mean, that's the price you pay for wanting to repair it.
In your computer right now, in the BIOS, there's an option that says like California ERP ready or ERP ready. That's there as an environmental control. And it is on by default, but if you turn it off, your computer performs better because it uses more electricity.
Which is terrorism.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So, the right to repair is you don't get to turn that off anymore in BIOS because
You might hurt yourself.
And that's the argument they made about the tractor too. It's
Yeah.
like, if we let you, you'll turn this off and it's bad for the world.
yeah.
Because it's not bad for the world to hold tractors hostage as we starve.
Yeah.
And the government is doing a lot to prep for the election. And unfortunately, a lot of what they're prepping is to restrict our speech.
Connecticut will pay a security analyst $150,000 to monitor election memes for misinformation.
What a great job.
I got some bots. I can do that way cheaper.
Although 150K is a lot more than the Facebook people are making, but these guys do have to troll 4chan all day.
Yeah.
That was in the job description.
Do you think they have a folder of ones they think are funny?
They're
like, oh, I want to get rid of that, but also I'm going to keep that for my personal stash.
That's a good question. Is the person who takes this job just doing it pure mercenary, or do they have to be on the Kool-Aid?
Would you want somebody that's on the Kool-Aid versus...
No, because they would be technically incompetent. Yeah. Tough decision. And in Texas, they tried to fight back against the censorship, but in kind of a partisan way, admittedly. That also not allowed.
Supreme Court blocks Texas social media law that tech companies warn would allow rampant hateful content. So this is Twitter basically saying, if you do this, we're just not going to moderate anything and then it'll be bad.
Well, I think that's what they want, right? Just no moderation.
Well, that's what they say they want.
I think that's good. No moderation sounds good to me. Just ignore the things you don't like. Oh, here, you know what? I should have sorted these together.
Oh,
Wow.
there it is.
It's already been
I
foreshadowed
thought that was in
today.
a different section, but I guess not.
Right to repair equipment removed from North Carolina Senate bill. Why it matters. It was removed in kind of an underhanded way. Like if you look into details, it was just, we want to torpedo this. Okay, sounds good.
But it was that same argument.
Yeah.
Like, oh, bad for the environment. You can hurt yourself. You're too dumb to do this.
You can make that same argument about cars, but we allow people to fix cars or your home.
And arguably the average farmer is more prepared to do that than the average motorist.
Wow, that's racist. But I mean,
But in favor of farmers, so I'm kind of okay with it.
but like you could make that argument about almost anything. Yeah. Certainly anything you plug into the wall. All right.
Oh, yeah.
That'll kill you. And this headline might seem a little obvious, but I think the big word that everybody, this is a paywall alternative, but the big thing everybody seized on was that O word, which up until this point, we'd kind of been careful
Pretending that we're
about
not. Yeah.
that's not happening.
U.S. ramps up offensive and defensive cyber operations. The offensive there might have been just for the headline, but because
well, it's in the quote that guy said.
Yeah.
in the original
Let's
article,
not kid ourselves.
It sounded like it was preemptive. It's like they're trying to get into this system. We are preemptively using that system to take this other system offline. And it's like, well, I guess that's offensive.
But is it an act of war?
It's going to escalate that way, I'm sure.
That kind of thing has been going on both sides for a while now.
Yeah, for sure.
Hope the Nginx people are okay.
And some bad news for Apple because they have this ongoing battle about the cables, and this does not look good.
EU is a deal on a single mobile charging port likely June 7th in setback for Apple. So lightning cables are no more for the EU. I think engagement challenge, if you're in the EU, do you want your phone to have a lightning port or are you happy with USB-C? Because it's an arbitrary decision.
It makes sense. Didn't they prove that USB-C works just as well?
There is, in fact, some videos where somebody has modded their iPhone to have USB-C ports, and it worked fine.
They just want to sell more chargers.
Yeah, it's all about, but it's all, well, not just that, but also to make you feel special. It's like,
Oh, I can't use your filthy Android cable.
Yeah. Oh, no, I need a lightning cable.
Who wants that, though? Like, who's like, yeah, when I'm going through an airport, I want to carry 20 cables.
Well, some people are desperate to separate themselves from the pack even when it makes very little sense.
Excellent segue.
France bans English gaming tech jargon and pushes reserve language purity.
This is not a first for France. They have a whole academy that deals with this. Like, they don't want a lot of loan words. They also like fight back on stuff like, I think like the word for professor, they didn't want to use a feminine version of it. They're like, no. In French, we say just professor.
What's the feminine version of a professor?
Professorin, maybe? I don't speak French. Someone in our
Really?
chat can tell us. Yeah.
Oh, wait. No, you're saying, I don't understand that argument. So they have a gendered version, but they don't want it?
They don't want it. Because that's not how French was traditionally spoken.
Oh.
They think that is an outside
So-
influence. So there's a lot of stuff like that, though, that's not just about like gender stuff, but just like loan words. They're like, don't use loan words, like in this case.
Wouldn't the woke version be not to gender it?
Maybe. I don't think it's a woke thing. I think it's literally just a French language snob thing.
Yeah, the construction of the language always has masculine and
Right.
feminine things.
But it's no one's going to use this, okay? Because let's look at the worst
The word,
example.
yeah.
The worst example is streamer, which is one word, 2 syllables, and it becomes, well, you can speak French, right?
Joueur, amateur, indirect.
Someone who speaks French is going to be like, ugh. Like when I try to speak German, it's hillbilly German.
Somebody just popped a blood vessel.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very long word.
I would
that's
rage,
French.
if I was French, I would rage against that.
But that's the thing, though. Like, you know, well, I guess the French riot for everything, right? That's their other stereotype. But like in the U.S., if someone tried to tell you how to speak, people would be like, "Screw you! I'm using the other word."
Hard drive, which is 2 syllables, is disk dir non-immovable.
Chris, there's a lot of words I've stopped using because the mob would destroy me for it.
But I'm saying,
and I ain't
like,
happy about it.
like if the government was like, "You can't use this word anymore," people would be angry. About
Once
that
again,
in the
when
US.
I'm Twitch streaming, often I have to replace words. Often. Now, did we learn that Google had kind of shut down completely in Russia?
Well, their bank account was seized, so they had no ability to pay staff. And so they're like, well, guess we're not here anymore.
So I guess this is for past offenses. Is Google going to take, are they going to pay attention to this? Or are they just going to be like, all right, we're done?
I think this is
it's motorcycle season. Sorry.
Right. My office is ground zero for annoying motorcycle noises. We didn't think about that.
yeah, that might be bad.
I don't know that these mics would pick it up, but maybe you guys can tell us.
We're
in
going
the
to find
comments.
out.
Find
Yeah.
out.
Anyway.
Russia opens cases against Google and other foreign tech over data storage. This just may be a legal means to get access to the funds that are in the bank account that has already been frozen.
I guess they could just extract their
Yeah.
penalties from that. And then legally.
Legally just bleed it off.
But the companies abandoning Russia have not stopped. And one of the holdouts, we figure out why they're a holdout, because they did a lot of business in Russia.
HP turns its back on $1 billion in annual sales by quitting Russia and Belarus. Revenue hit for HP larger than many other tech providers post pullout PC, but the printing giant stays the course. Also server giant, although that's HP Enterprise.
And that's something like 1/16 of their annual income.
Yeah, although I think one of the stories in the business section talks a little, like it mentioned some of the upturn and some of the other stuff, said that in the last couple of weeks, things have actually been improving since the pullout for other companies that have left, including server production chips, computers, etc.
Wait, since what pullout? HP?
No, because other tech companies have already pulled out and their stock went down and it was a revenue forecast, blah, blah, blah. But then everything went back up because they've managed to,
Oh, I see.
there's enough of a shortage that they didn't really sell less stuff. They just
Right.
sold it elsewhere.
There was a gap in the market. Yeah.
And they're able to raise their prices.
Yeah.
Considerably. Taiwan has taken a very comical step toward Russia because they're still going to let some chips in there, but it's such a weird rule that, like, do you think they'll even bother to get any of these? I mean, I guess you could run some infrastructure off this kind of stuff, but not much else.
Taiwan restricts Russia and Belarus to CPUs under 25 megahertz in frequency. Not just under 25 megahertz, but also less than 5 gigaflops and can't be wider than 32 bits and a whole bunch of other restrictions. Can't be more faster than 0.4 nanoseconds gate-to-gate propagation. This is... So the shortages right now are really weird. We actually have a worse shortage situation at the very low end of the market. Think programmable microcontrollers, stuff that would go in like a stove or a TV set, things like that. And so this actually, I don't know. I don't know that this will really
Move the needle.
Yeah, because those chips that they're proposing to still sell them, other markets would still buy up all the ones that were available in the market. So
This could be their way of saying, like, no, we didn't cripple you. We didn't endanger your people. You could still get these garbage chips. That would be enough.
you can still buy toasters.
What if this led to like 10 years from now, Russia has all repairable tractors and it's good for them?
Oh,
Singapore is more and more getting on the new world of digital transactions and going into the future. This I'll worry about.
Singapore to pilot digital asset trading with blockchain and tokenization. Project Guardian will explore the tokenization of financial assets, including potential decentralized finance applications and wholesale funding markets.
So that's a lot of word salad to basically say they're going to try to do what Robinhood did with fractional shares of a security. So you got one share of Amazon. Is that still like 1,200 or something? I guess it's down now, right? Obviously, some people can't scratch together that much money. So you buy that, you hold it, you split it into tokens, and you sell the tokens for a smaller amount. Sounds like a mess.
Using blockchain to keep up with it. If that were done transparently, a lot of the kinds of fraud that we see with things like GameStop and shorting, and it's like, oh, we've totally closed their positions. No, they didn't. That would go away because every trading day you would have a blockchain to be like, we had this many shares, we borrowed this other many shares, we shorted this one, and it all reconciles.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people might hear that and be like, well, we already have that. The stock market does that. No, look up dark pools. Dark pools are a big part of the problem that we have.
Dark pools are not auditable in the way that a blockchain is.
I think, didn't Musk tap into some of those when he was getting his Twitter money?
He sure did.
And again, with the Ukraine, a bad sort. You know what? I missed it by one.
well, you could say something about blockchain to bike chains. It's a good segue.
Like, what is it? Swords to plowshares, except the other way around?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, the bike doesn't do anything for the farm. It's more recreational. But it makes total sense because, you watch those satellite images and the tanks are small, but they're very visible. So what do you do if you want to hide from that?
Ukrainian fighters take to electric bikes in the war against Russia. This is a rabbit hole for you to go down more than an article about what's going on, because Ukraine is doing a lot of really interesting stuff with technology and lithium-ion batteries and e-scooters and e-bikes and motors and things like that. So they're repurposing electric bikes that have lights and mirrors and stuff, taking all that off, making it so that they can be used for personnel carriers, making it so they can recharge equipment, making it so that they can power Starlink terminals.
Or driving them up hills to sniper spots where they can't be spotted because they're so small.
In addition to all the other stuff.
And they put the off-road tires on them. They basically just made them war machines.
Yeah.
Very quickly, too.
Yeah.
Impressive.
It's impressive ingenuity.
Although, we say quickly, I think we just hit the 6-month anniversary.
100 days.
Let's say it was February, I think, very end of February when it
Today is literally the 100th day.
That's crazy. So not 6 months then. 3.
Yeah, like 3 or 4, yeah.
100-day must have been what I'm thinking of. And speaking of Starlink, and certainly Starlink has had quite the advertisement in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason they still have internet. Has Viasat ever recovered in Ukraine?
No, those terminals are hard to recover.
Wow. But that's not the only place where the Starlink is spreading.
Elon Musk says Starlink has been approved in Nigeria and Mozambique. Woo!
Now, I've been watching a lot of documentaries about Africa lately, especially about transporting things in Africa. Oh my God, fascinating. But one of the things that comes up over and over in those videos is the daily income for the average person in those countries. And it's something like €8. So they mention here the Starlink price is the same in Africa. So that's like a year of income for the common person.
Internet cafes are popular in such places.
I imagine, like NGO outreach will be a big part of all that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
We won't have it in the government section, but in the business section, we'll also talk about Starlink 2.0 and carriers and stuff like that, which is also related to the deployment here. So exciting times.
And if you're using mobile data, for your primary internet connection, and maybe you're getting it through Vodafone, now might be the time to switch, because this headline is disgusting.
Vodafone plans carrier level using tracking for targeted ads. Remember the undeletable header cookie that Verizon was injecting into your HTTP traffic? Now on Vodafone.
Remember what a scandal that was?
Yeah.
And now they're press releasing it.
Yeah.
How quickly we've moved into this horrible new world.
Is there what's the Overton window for privacy violations? Because
It's laying on the ground in pieces.
I didn't look into it more, but I saw a picture the other day on like Asshole Design where someone's keyboard on their phone, there were ads in the top part, like suggested.
That's probably a third-party keyboard, though.
I
that
would
someone
think, but
foolishly
wow.
installed. Yeah. Now, these headlines, it sounds really good. It sounds a little too good. I'm always suspicious when the FBI stops a crime before it happens. Because in the past, a lot of those times, the FBI also planned and orchestrated that crime
Yeah.
before it happens. So they could get a press release. And they use some idiot as a useful idiot and destroy their lives in the process.
FBI Director Wray says that they blocked a planned cyber attack on a children's hospital. This was in Boston. I, too, was looking for technical details as to what was going on, because usually there's something like dumb that an administrator has done. And I'm all for the FBI saying, hey, we noticed that your remote desktop ports are open, or your VPN is misconfigured, or gosh darn it, you're still using that Juniper with the compromised elliptic curve encryption. You should probably fix that. But this seems like
We did it, guys, and then there was no detail.
But they also said that they got word that this was coming like a week before. Why would anybody
Announce it?
I mean, they probably didn't announce it, but I guess it just could be loose lips among the forum members.
Yeah.
Well, did they know they were in there exfiltrating patient records? Because I've got news for you. Patient records are kind of an important thing. There was a huge medical records leak in Australia, and it's a national authority there, and they were just like, it's medical records. They can't really abuse that for finances. And it's like, that's a pretty dumb way to respond to that.
I don't think they ever got in. I think it was a totally preemptive shutdown.
Wow.
So somehow
Very skeptical.
the FBI got all the details about it, exactly how they were going to go in, and then they mitigated it in a week.
That is impressive if true, but there are details missing that we will no doubt follow up on.
Isn't it almost always phishing?
Yeah.
I don't care if you had an FBI agent go to every single employee and slap them around and be like, don't click on links and emails. Somebody would still do it.
Or it's a two-stage thing where there's one group that gets access, and then they sell access to the actual ransomware gangs. So there's one
That's
or two.
more likely, yeah.
Yeah, independent operators who fish somebody, and then it's like, oh, this guy's at a children's hospital.
And the FBI has been in that forum where they were selling that stuff for
Right.
the past year. So yeah, that's probably likely.
That means that at least that person has been in the system and getting data. They just haven't deployed the ransomware.
Well, did we talk about this last week?
We talked about Clearview was expanding its horizons into schools. We now have more details.
Yeah, we know exactly what they're doing now. Now, they do say they are not using the stuff that they scraped from social media at all. This is going to be a captured record of just everybody at the school they're going to look at against. But you cannot argue that they built this technology with those faces. This would not exist without that.
That's very true.
So this is definitely the fruit of a terribly poisonous tree.
Clearview is now selling its AI to app developers and school security contractors. So imagine, if you will, Clearview AI. It's like, they took my picture from social media. I didn't give them permission to do that. Okay. Your school has given Clearview AI permission to capture your likeness and image from their security cameras and all the other cameras that have been set up. You have zero control over that. You gave, the school is doing this. They're building their product with that information. And also third parties that are using that and so on and so forth. So Clearview is not even necessarily going to be the bad guy here.
You wanted to get an education? Screw you. Give up your face.
And you have to capture the faces with the same fidelity to use the same system. We know these are very good captures. We know it's very valuable. So you're going to sell that to unvetted third-party app developers who could then use it to harvest and resell the faces. I'm sure they won't do that.
Well, not only that, imagine in 5 or 6 years if this thing gets deployed. It's like we have 5 years of this person's, aging data. We know exactly what they look like. I mean, that could be the most valuable counterintelligence thing ever if this is widely adopted.
And all you have to do to get in this is go to school.
Yeah.
So, like, what percentage of us went to public school? And it's not even public. I'm sure private schools will pick this up too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How long until standardized testing uses this? It's like
Oh yeah,
can't-
you have to take the ACT and you have to.
you can't take it for somebody else.
And
It's
then-
already pretty invasive.
They'll ease it right into the classroom and do that Chinese paying attention algorithm.
Oh, they do that here already for remote.
What do you mean you don't have a barcode? You just scan your barcode.
Let me see the back of your neck.
We're just turning into Gattaca every week.
Well, India has already gone down this path, and there's been a lot of scandals about their national ID system. A lot of people said it was a bad idea when it started. It's turned out to be. But this one is more of, this goes back to that whole phishing thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, no matter what you do, no matter how secure it is, at the ground level, people have to understand it and respect it and use it. And the pragmatic hotel clerk in India doesn't have time for this. So what do they go to? Old tech.
India withdraws warning on biometric ID sharing following online uproar.
Photocopies. They didn't want to be bothered with the whole ID thing. So when you went to a hotel, you give them your ID, they'd be like, let me just throw this in the photocopier. And then they would print those and store them and use them instead of the online ID. Yeah. I just imagine, the authorities talking to a hotel clerk and they're like, well, obviously I did that.
Yeah.
Do you know how annoying this is? Do you know how many customers I have? But if you want some privacy, you really have to go to some insane lengths, especially if you want phone privacy. But hey, maybe we have a new contender.
Murena, the privacy-first Android smartphone, has arrived. It's the first smartphone released. The EOS-powered Murena 1, tries to free you from Google.
How Apple is going to cease and desist EOS, right? You think the slash will save them?
I don't know. I like the Pine Phone project more than this. This is probably going to be more functional quicker, but the Pine Phone OS projects are more ambitious and properly structured because at Android, anything built on Android I think is going to be fundamentally at odds with what the project goals are.
I had that thought and then I was like, well, maybe they can do it.
I mean, you can, but
Here's the big caveat with this thing. I don't know if this is true of the Pine Phone. You still have to have a Google account.
with the Pine Phone, it's pure Linux, no Android.
Nice. So you have to have a Google account in order to get everything going, but you don't necessarily have to use their apps. So it's better, but at the same time, you still got to be a Google customer. I guess this only affected podcasts. I did not notice this at all. And I have Spotify on quite a bit in the background during the workday. But I got to say, Spotify for me, I'm thinking about leaving them because the podcast clutter. I hate it.
Do you see podcasts a lot?
Yeah, they're like all over the dashboard.
Oh, I usually don't look at that. I don't see that a lot on mine. I usually go straight to my playlist,
Wow.
so maybe that's why.
One of my favorite things about Spotify is their discovery algorithm. It's so good.
Spotify publisher was down Monday night. The culprit, an expired security certificate.
Somebody's getting a demotion.
Ooh.
Yeah, most of the security certificate infrastructure these days is automated. Not just Let's Encrypt. Most of the major providers have some API or some way to automate your certificate renewal. And most certificate providers don't want to sell you a 3-year certificate anymore. That used to be, it's like, oh, you just buy a 3-year certificate. You don't have to deal with it once every 3 years. Nope.
And we got a new Linux ransomware. And this one is disturbing because you might be on some sort of virtual hosting and you have no idea that this is affecting the underlying hardware.
New Linux-based ransomware targets VMware servers. CheerScript plants double extortion malware on ESXi servers. There have been some security vulnerabilities for VMware. If you didn't install those, it's probably already too late.
Aren't they planning a sale? Tough time to be releasing that news.
Yeah, it's Broadcom's working on it. It's not finalized, but they're working on it.
And we have a bizarre
This is
ransomware here that I suppose there's maybe better than the traditional one.
The headline sounds good, but then when you read how they actually did it, it's kind of terrible.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what that person gets from this. Just the lulls. Is that what it is?
Goodwill Ransomware forces victims to donate and to the poor and provides financial assistance to patients in need.
All
So-
that sounds good, right?
What do you think about this? Is this better than the FBI?
No, it's terrible because the line length is too long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You drop it down to like this.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're more prone to reading the same line over and over if the text is too.
They
too
continue
long.
to commit that sin.
Yeah.
So here we go. Activity 1. This you got to help somebody on the street, right?
Right. The issue I have with all this is that you have to take photos for it. And like so you have to go help someone, but then you have to be like, "Hi, can I take your picture while I'm giving you blankets?" It's just ugh.
5 poor children under 13 years in your neighborhood. Wow, what if you're in Malibu or like a really nice neighborhood? You can't find any poor children. Beverly Hills, we don't have them.
They were exterminated already.
And then I didn't even read the third one. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but they make you verify it by taking photos, which just feels manipulative.
Oh, you got to go to a hospital. More than making you give stuff away, it seems to want to shame you for not being poor.
Yeah. Taking photos. It's an interesting idea, but like the verification of it seems strange.
If this were to like explode and start infecting everybody and worming and all that stuff, there would be a hot new cottage industry from the homeless, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to give me anything. I'll be in your picture. Well, you got to give me $5.
It's the same guy in all 3 helping. It's what happened. It's
One
like,
guy.
yeah.
He has so many blankets now.
It turns into an Always Sunny episode where it starts out with a homeless guy and ends up with the same homeless guy in the hospital.
Or they could be like just open up a studio and dress people as homeless and take some
Right.
nice shots. Do
It'd
like
be
a green
easy to
screen.
fake it.
Yeah. And we found out about the Windows 0 day. Of course, it did not take long for the APT crowd to get into it.
Microsoft Windows MSDT 0-day vulnerability has been now exploited by the Chinese advanced persistent threat hackers. This one is not going to be super easy to patch because it turns out this is a feature, not a bug in Windows. You can run arbitrary code by opening an attachment in your email or just clicking on the attachment in email to start running things, which is sort of bad.
I'm terrified of those attacks because then I'll get a spam email and I'm like, oh God.
It's
What?
scary, yeah.
Don't click on it. Don't click on it. Carefully click the box and delete. Costa Rica is having a tough time with ransomware.
Yeah.
They hit almost everything. There were a few government agencies that had not been hit yet, and apparently whoever was doing this, or maybe just another ransomware gang, was like, "Oh, I'll be a part of that." So they're picking off the last survivors.
Costa Rican Social Security Fund hit with ransomware attack. So this is affecting people in Costa Rica on Social Security, which is, their most vulnerable.
The Social Security Fund joins all of these. So many Costa Rican government agencies are fully ransomwared right now.
And they want 10 million. Oh, this was also probably the Russians. And so the instructions for paying the ransomware are also much more convoluted than it used to be because of the sanctions.
Oh.
That's sort of interesting. It's an interesting twist on a familiar tune.
Now, I remember this story, although they say this happened 3 times. I don't know if we got it all 3 times.
We got it.
Or 2. It was just 2 before this one. This is the 3rd.
Yeah, we only got it the one time before.
But we definitely talked about it before, but it keeps happening. Also, you know what occurred to me? This is War Thunder, which is all about tanks, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the War Thunder crowd is a little crestfallen after seeing what tank warfare has become?
There's a guy on an e-bike with a man pad that's taking out our $50 million tank. What is going on?
They should add the e-bike and the man pad as like the highest tier tank unlock.
There are bikes in PUBG now. I don't remember that being a thing before, and they actually are fairly effective because they're quiet.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they actually made that. I remember those.
They had motorcycles, but I don't think
Maybe
they
that's
had
what I'm thinking of.
bicycles.
Anyway, the leak here is the same as it was before. Somebody gets in a hot argument about how things should behave in the game, and they want to bring in real world examples, but that's all secret.
Another guy has leaked classified military documents on the same tank games forum. Yeah, War Thunder. Except this time, instead of a classified U.S. tank, it was a classified Chinese tank. Woo!
They said this guy, I mean, sometimes you might think, well, this is a guy who's out of the military, right? He's just a civilian now, and he's leaking this. Maybe that's not as bad. This guy posted his screenshot with his proof and a tank shell, a live tank shell, to prove that he, in fact, knew what would happen in this game.
It probably won't be hard to track that guy down.
Oh, that guy got a security clearance.
In China.
Oh.
Although, does China conscript their military?
I don't know. Engagement challenge?
He's clearly proud of his tank command, I guess. And our final security story, this should surprise no one, and yet it's disgusting because we were assured this kind of thing was not going to happen.
It's impossible.
We don't need to worry about this. That's crazy talk.
Remote learning apps shared children's data at a dizzying scale. Think about that when we talk about the Clearview AI thing.
Yeah. Well, children are going to be the consumers of the future. We got to get on now.
We got to get, it's not just that they're the consumers of the future. We have to get them used to this police state hellscape before they realize something is wrong.
And so you're thinking, well, yeah, okay. So they shared with the school, right? They shared the children's data with the school. No. They shared the children's data with advertising. 90% of the school learning software was reporting directly to ad agencies.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that we should mention. Is they were not playing Fruit Ninja. These were actually the applications that the school recommended or that were officially part of the curriculum.
And you wonder how much value is that? Well, they had so many data points, they claimed that they could easily pinpoint the spending habits of these kids based on this.
Adults don't buy stuff as much anymore, but people will buy stuff for their kids. So got to get that money.
This needs to not be normalized, not because it's the privacy considerations are important, sure, but the psychological aspect, the ability to weaponize that and manipulate the kids when they're adults in the future is just too easy.
You know what? We need to coin a term here. I hope. I'm sure somebody's thought this before. We're going to call this boiling the tadpoles.
Oh.
Much easier than boiling frogs. Much easier.
The tadpoles instinctively know something is wrong, but they are unable to articulate what, because everything is as it's always been.
But when they reach froghood, it's just normalized. And then they let their tadpoles be spied upon.
Yeah. Eventually, they will reach a breaking point.
Let's hope that happens before the country falls.
What do we got for tomorrow?
Tomorrow we got business and whichever's smaller between space, robot, and social.
Social's pretty small.
And even more Elon Musk business news.
Yeah.
Getting a little tired of it.
I am too. I don't want to hear about him anymore. And yet.
It turns out all this stuff from the last few weeks has just been some poorly executed Machiavellian nonsense.
Oh, we should also mention, for those of you who are screeching in the comments, we did listen. A little bit different angle this week. I don't know what background we'll use.
Yeah, we'll try to do something a little less busy, probably.
I don't know if my shirt is going to key out or not.
I wore green pants last week and immediately regretted it. He got it out, but
It didn't even occur to me.
If Ryan's just a floating head,
That'll be hilarious.
it's fine.
Maybe we should strive for that.
We should all buy green shirts, yeah.
No, just one of us every week. Rotate it.
Also, we tried to clear the desk off a little bit too, but
Yeah, the desk is not getting less busy. This is how it looks.
sorry. All right. We will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.